Rick's being a show off with a nice T-shirt.
Yeah, he is. I've got one for you probably somewhere.
No, you told me you had one. Not only one of each.
Yeah, I've got one of each for you somewhere.
Somewhere. It was in Philadelphia. It was in your room. It was in your bag. It has your name on it. Trust me.
Yeah.
All those words came out of your mouth.
But in a different order. Trust me, I don't know where my bag is, but it's in it. That's the order they came out in. No, I do have them at home. We've got thousands of them.
It's all right. It's all right. Did you see the post? I think it was Annette that said I just had to go to the UK and go get it.
Yeah.
And I said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And Mark, I'm not going to the UK and stay in a hotel. So get my little cozy spot ready, and the neighborhood will never be the same.
I would be delighted to do that. And I will sync it up with when I'm away. That would be good.
I'm going to go mute.
Wow.
We can do that. I'm only joking. We'll do your tour. We'll take you around, and we'll do the good stuff.
We'll do the good stuff.
Yeah,
wow, that's fun. That's fun.
I've got a friend of mine, Rick, over in your neighborhood over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not going to introduce you because you wouldn't like him.
But
then
why are you even bringing it up?
Because just to prove that I've got friends.
Oh.
So that's me. That's
friends. I would suggest you talk to your therapist about that sort of stuff, just to prove that you have friends.
Even she's let me go. Good Lord. Anyway, we'll kick in. I'm going to start with you, Cam, today. The newly fresh trimmed Cam. I almost didn't recognize you. That's how good the haircut is.
What a line of shit you have. I tell you.
I thought it was going to, I almost expected a totally different look. So I thought you've just not been for it doing, but I'm curious about that whole, is this all right for you, sir? And you saying yes. And then getting home and being like, no.
Yeah, I know. Don't even go. Oh, God. Ann was with me. Okay. Challenges. I sent my proposal to Repair Pal Friday.
Well done.
Hopefully, it's now 8 a.m. out there, and hopefully they'll read it and pick up the phone and say, God, let me just send me a contract. But I know that won't happen. So, I'm doing some philanthropy work this week, working with I know them really well. They started this program called Breaks for Breasts in the industry. It's about creating a breast cancer vaccine. I've interviewed the girls who started this a couple of times. It's 100% of the money goes to the vaccine, and I'm going to kind of do a Facebook advertorial with them for about 15 minutes on Wednesday.
Well done. I like that.
I met with the Interstate Battery people as a possible host to this industry-wide event to change the perception of the industry, and that was interesting. I was grilled by 6 ladies about who I was, what I was doing, and shit, and so I ended up following up and sending them a bunch of stuff that they were curious about. I'm meeting with Napa, of course, the largest U.S. distributor of automotive parts, on Wednesday, and they heard about me through people that I've interviewed and in the industry, and they're looking for a potential role for me in their 2020 Expo.
Okay. And
they also want to ask me about topics, since I'm the pulse of the industry. So we're talking to them. My Come to Jesus meeting with Rick may have proven well so far. I would have to say his quality is 80% improved.
Oh, that's good then.
And he's showing a huge amount of caring. That's probably the word that's most critical, caring. Had this really interesting call last Friday night in Australia. Probably my biggest fan of my show is the CFO of Australia, Bank of Australia. It's a top 25 bank in the world. As the CFO, he's responsible for $3.5 billion of profit of the bank. And he's on the phone with little old me. And why? Because he loves cars, and he recruited a guy from the UK to come to Australia. Actually, no, I'm sorry. BMW recruited him from Australia to go to work in UK to Australia. Then he meets this guy, loves him, buys a piece of property, And together they become a 50-50 partner in a BMW specialty shop. And he just loves to talk about cars and repairs and the industry and the business. He reached out through somebody else that I know, and I said, I'd love to have my first Aussie interview. Well, he tells me, we listened to this episode and we implemented that. We got another idea from this guy, and he's going down the list of these episodes, the CFO of this bank telling me how big of a fan he is and how many of the ideas and insights from the podcast they've implemented in their company. So I'll be interviewing them. So now what's interesting from a marketing perspective, we're sharing this with my wife, and he says, my God, Australia, Zimbabwe, you have the A to Z of the world. Because I've interviewed someone from Zimbabwe, by the way. So anyway, those were kind of the wins of last week. Challenges, finding harmony, interesting thought, and in understanding the stats that are now going on with podcast websites, because I think you guys are absolutely toast and out to lunch, and I don't know what happened, but you guys have something bad going on.
Do you know what I like about you, Cam, is how rude you can be because you know me. I'll let you off.
But Mark, you start out every episode as rude as you can be. I figured maybe a dish back would help.
You can hit me, but don't hit my team. Good Lord.
Oh, no, not your team. No, wait a minute. As far as I know, I'm talking to the dog here.
Well, you got spiked by a bot. There was you and Chuck Parker got spiked by a bot. You had 6,000 downloads on the bot on one day. So the stats are always a little odd on that one. There was you and Keith.
No, today is like double, triple where I normally would be.
Let me do my thing as a dog. So there was Cam and Chuck, wasn't there? It was with a blacklisted IP. Yeah, that's all right. That's cool. We talked about it this morning. Yeah, so it looks like you and one other person have been susceptible to a bot. So that's normally just someone coming around and pinging the traffic. So what they do is they fire a bot, just like that all the time, boom, 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 like a machine gun. Just at the
so almost like a denial of service, but different.
Kind of, insofar as just a barrage of traffic it is, but it's not intended to bring anything down. It's more, it's more just intended to cause a little bit of havoc. So everyone does it, and there's like a huge list of blacklisted IPs, but normally just IPs turn up.
So you said everybody does it. Who's everybody? Like everybody in the podcasting industry does it, or everybody on the internet?
No, everyone gets it. Everyone gets, Libsyn will get spike stats. I could log into I've got a hosting account with every podcasting host. I could log into any of them, and you can see a giant spike. And then you'll not see it for, you'll get 2 or 3, and then you'll not see it for 2 years maybe.
So everybody gets it. Is everybody that is hosting something will get it.
So you just get smashed with him. So there was you and Chuck Parker that got it calm this week, and then same as it's probably happening again today.
I think it's still going on. Mark, are you guys on that?
Yeah, and you can just work through Kieran and the support team on that. But yeah, it's all they're just what we do is we'll take the IP and we've got to filter out the real downloads, if you like.
Yeah, I would. I really would love to go back to see what it is. There were some critical episodes that released. I really would have loved to have seen the real stats on them.
Yeah,
if they could just go out and tell me subtract, from these particular days, subtract, and I'd be happy.
I'm not sure if we can do that in an easy way because of how the data's stored, but we'll have a look at it. We're just upgrading the stats module actually in a couple of weeks' time. The IAB compliance that I talked about is going to come in anyway. So we're gonna add another layer of filtering into that because we're going to measure it slightly differently starting over the next couple of weeks.
All right.
Which is always a fun one. But yeah, it's blacklisted bots are a pain in the arse.
Well, thank God you guys knew what it was because I knew that all of a sudden I didn't become so ultra popular.
Yeah, we saw it last week, and it comes up a lot. We get it all the time.
Really?
Yeah. There's thousands and hundreds of thousands of these IPs that are blocked.
Carm, that was your Aussie influence, man. Come on.
Yeah, right.
It could be. It could be. But no, I mean that'll work. So what's the challenge then for this week? So Rick's done. We're feeling Rick.
Finding harmony and understanding stats.
So no Rick challenge though. Rick's not a challenge this week.
No, I spent an hour with him this morning. Love where we're at this week.
Nice work, dude. Because that was a big problem last week. So yeah, that's good. And let us know how you got on with Repair Pail as well. That's a bit of a shift from 3-4 weeks ago when it was actually, should I even be talking to these guys?
I know. And I had a nice long talk with them, and I sent the proposal. I thought it was my best proposal yet, as far as how I laid it out, and so we'll see. We'll see. Nice
work. Well done, my man. Andrea, I'm going to come to you. Hello, welcome back from your vacay.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. So what's been going on? Wins and challenges. I know we've Andrea and I just did a coaching session like an hour ago. So you've had some good wins.
Yeah, great wins. Met with my branding person and have a call to review things on Tuesday, tomorrow. We met 2 weeks ago. And so I'm interested to see what comes out of that. I also did all the branding exercises that Mark shared in the links. You know what? I know I've done them a bunch of times, but it was even better this time. I am prepping for my what's called a TAD talk. It's not a TED talk, but it's for appreciative inquiry. Got that coming up the weekend of September 7th. Mm-hmm. And then the following weekend, I go to Nantucket for the Nantucket Project, and just found out I'm going to be on stage for that as a host, like representing the hosts of Nantucket neighborhood. I don't know what that entails yet, but standing by for further.
Cool.
And, you know, I am looking to hopefully launch my website by October. So that's some exciting stuff happening.
Good. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is obviously that branding, isn't it? Just getting that done.
Getting that done, and juggling now, you know, just more intense kid schedule because they start next Monday. So getting it going and keeping my momentum, making sure that I'm checking off my one thing every day.
Good. And you got 60 emails done, which is a massive win.
60, yeah. 60 of 100, yeah.
That's insane. Well done.
Yeah. Thanks.
That is good. I like that. Cool. And Raf and Andrea, you were both on the new onboarding process for podcast websites as well. I put you guys on there.
Thank you.
So Raf was on there yesterday having a tinker. Andrea, you, like I said, I get started. Maybe do what Raf's done today. Raf's gone through the understanding the basics part of it. And then when you've got your brand pack ready from Kirsten, you can start on the customization stuff, which is kind of nice. There's, I'm just thinking around for UCAM, we've got another couple of page templates that we rolled out as part of that. So things like the Start Here page, things like the sponsor kit page, which is quite interesting. But it might just, I'm just thinking from your side, they just might need a bit of an upgrade.
Where do I get a chance to see this?
So you'll the easiest way to do it is whether we can upgrade your site while we do this bot thing. I'll check into that for you. But there's just a couple more templates in there for Builder, that's all, that you might be interested in.
Hey, Mark, as a side note, the sidebar on the podcast page.
Yeah.
When those are clicked on, could they be made to open up a new window?
Yeah. So what you do with that is if you go to the widgets section, so go to your design center, scroll down to the widget section on the right-hand side, and then if I remember correctly, there should be a tick box that says open in new window.
Oh, really?
Or open in new tab, I think.
Thank you.
That should be doable.
If somebody's listening, I'd hate to have them doing some searching and then, lose the episode.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's how it works right now.
Yeah, good shout. That should be doable. In fact, I know it is doable.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thank you very much, Andrea. So any other challenges, anything coming up that you've got to get your head down with?
The next couple of weeks are going to be pretty busy and intense. So I just got to stay organized, stay on it.
Good. That makes sense. And Raf, give us the quick rundown, the wins and the challenges. What's the week been like?
It's been a really good week. We had our meeting 2 hours ago, as you said, with Andrea a little bit ago. But so for the gang, I want to personally thank, shout out to Rick Clemens and Carm. Thank you so much, guys. With our mastermind from last week, the biggest change that happened is that, in the conversation with Mark as well, is that I now know my product, right? I have launched, and we talked about it last week. And at one point, Mark says, dude, you've launched already. Like, what are you waiting for? And then you guys were grilling me on the product, like what's served. And then we kind of went into it. And the sticker is the product. And the last week has just been phenomenal because I'm now pitching served, it being launched. Where before I was talking about it like it's this thing that's going to come one day in the near future, right? As I kept kicking that can down the road. And last week, I basically pitched served launched in May of this year with the get one, give one, and I give 2 stickers, and this is what I do. And the response has just been completely, it's still very receptive, where in the past it was receptive, but it's different. Because now people are looking forward to this thing that exists, not it's going to exist. And then with that, it set my mindset in a different path of acceleration, of, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, and these are the next steps. So that's what we were talking about with Mark earlier today, was that building the website, the visual, and making those connections actually happening, where before I kind of felt like I was always sort of wandering around trying to find the it or the purpose or the reason why. So anyways, I wanted to thank you guys because last week's mastermind really challenged me and got things to that boiling point that I needed to get to, and it did. So the challenge is that I don't have any great win stories like Carm. Those are amazing wins, Carm. So I get inspired by you and Rick and Mark and Andrea and the growth that everybody's doing, and it makes me push harder. So anyways, that's my challenge, is that I need to come up with some good, solid business wins, and then I can compete with you guys.
You know, what's so cool is if I was in your position so many years ago and I would have had a chance to glimpse the future, or at least, you know, the position that Rick and I are in, and by no means am I, you know, at the high point yet, but it's so cool to be able to share this stuff with you, so you can get an idea that the rungs of the ladders aren't that wide.
Yeah. Well, so that was kind of what I was telling Mark, is that before last week, I was like, I'm not doing a blog, or I'm not doing that, or I just don't have any content for that. And in the last 5 days, it's really just sort of been developing, because I have a product. My product is the 2 stickers. My product is this. And so much so that I was going to just put the 2 stickers in the mail for you, Carm. And I explained this to Mark earlier. He'll understand what I'm saying in a second, is that I was just going to literally just get 2 stickers in an envelope and put a stamp on it and send them to you. Where I actually have slowed that down. I said, you know what? I want to give the experience of the packaging of the product. The product is the 2 stickers. So I'm actually playing around with different envelopes, with different styles of, so when it arrives, the person says, oh, cool, these are the stickers.
Thank God you told me, because I've been waiting at the mailbox. When the mail guy comes up the road in the truck,
come on now,
every day since Wednesday. Thank you for letting me know.
like your Captain America decoder ring when you were a kid and you had to send in the stamps. Patronizing me is not the same thing as being patriotic. I don't know if you understand this.
You're my friend, and I can do that.
Thank you. Cool. Listen, man. you want to find the blacklisted IP address? It might be coming from.
Yeah, he's going to be your blacklisted IP. That's it. You guys, cool, man. Well played on that, and just keep
Yeah.
digging onto that website that we talked about. Get that
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
You've got all your brand assets actually, so you can go through that process.
Yeah.
And obviously you can share some of the knowledge with Andrew on that as well. So well played, dude.
Yeah. And then something that's really cool that I was telling Mark, that in all this new Success Academy that he's doing and the podcast websites, there's this terminology and this messaging that he's sending out, and he's calling it audio influencer. When Carm was just talking a little bit ago, and Rick has told some stories in the past as well, is that the terminology of being an audio influencer is what gets me excited. Because before I was just doing a podcast. Before I was just going to record my voice and do a couple shows. Now I have this deep desire to be this audio influencer. And Carm, if you got guys in Australia that you're number one fan type deal, that's a straight validation of you being an audio influencer in this industry. I mean, Napa, man, that's huge.
Mark worked with me a long time ago on that, and I really that was a great swing thought for me every time I open the mic or talk to people.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was saying. Is now when I look at the microphone, before it was just Raph recording a few shows and just putting out some info entertainment out there. Where now when I look at that process, it's almost like I would imagine a pro athlete, like a baseball player, stepping up to the plate to swing at the next pitch, right? It's boom, right? And anyway, so it's game changer. So Andrea, as you go through the Success Academy, keep that in mind. This idea of audio influence, being this audio influencer. At first, is a little weird, like, oh, that's not me. But as you kind of go through the process, you really start shifting that mindset, and you're like, this is really cool. I am going to be an audio influencer. And Rick and Carm, I am an audio influencer, and Mark as well.
Good shift, man. I like it. I'm glad that resonated. Well, thank you very much, sir. And on to you, Rick. Last but not least, sir, what's the week been like? How are we getting on? We had a good chat on Tuesday, didn't we?
Yeah, we did have a good chat. So week's been fairly productive. I think the thing that is probably the biggest win is I have 2 days, today and tomorrow, that I've cleared up a lot of stuff so that I can just focus on thinking through what this new strategy might look like, which isn't really all that different than where we've been. It's just a little more focused. I spent a lot of time talking to some people in my speaking world about just how to break through here. And I found out that what I'm experiencing with the college market is exactly what most people experience. So I'm making some decisions about whether that's really where I want to focus my effort at this point, because it's a very much a just pound your head against the wall sort of environment to get anything to happen. So why
is that, Rick? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Why is that a challenge? And the reason I'm asking is because I have a thought that I would go with veterans in going back to school. So I'm curious.
It's a challenge getting the speaking gigs because they don't move fast. So I literally wrote an email to one of my other colleagues and said, okay, so here's what I'm finding. They tell you that they are either already got things ready to go for the year, they don't have money, or they're going to turn things over to the students to make the decisions. So that's very consistent in what they say. And it's kind of frustrating because last spring when we were doing all this, it was, oh, we're already booked for the year. Reach out to us in July and August. That's when we make the decisions. Wasn't getting so much we didn't have the money thing, but that just seems to be the standard. So it's a lot of hustle work to get a return, and I'm not even saying a great return, because I've learned at this point most gigs in the college market, you're going to be doing good to get somewhere between $3,500 and $4,000 a gig, and that includes your travel to get there. So you got to think about how much effort you're putting in. And for me, I've determined I don't want to be traveling that much. So it's a lot of just reorganizing the direction I want to go. And it's really tough in that college market to get attention unless you absolutely have something that they say, this is a problem that we recognize, this is a problem we have on our campus, and we need to fix this. So I've learned a lot in the last week by just having some really deep, heartfelt conversations with some people out there in the business. So
you're talking about solving pain points.
Yeah. So for instance, one of my friends is really, he's got a great program. His is the Date Safe Project, and he's solving a problem about, these issues on campuses where, date rape and all this other stuff is happening, or, just people pushing themselves on one another. So he's been doing it for years too. That's the difference. He has been in this market for years, but he has a problem that the schools recognize. We want to create safe spaces for kids to date and feel like they don't get pressured into sex and whatever else. So you really have to enter this space with, here's the problem, here's how I solve that solution. I think I've got something with the Men and Masculinity program, but that's the newest, outbound stuff that we're starting to talk about. So we'll see. But it is much more, I've given this a good 6 months of hard pushing to try to get somewhere. And I have 4 or 5 semi-solid leads at this point, and everybody I've talked to is like, yeah, that's pretty much the standard here. So I'm reevaluating if I want to put this much effort into doing something when I could go build something else that might be more lucrative. So that's where I'm at.
Where are you feeling that might be? I know you, and I'm only asking this from the perspective of, I know that you're not a fan of like the courses and kind of product kind of side of the world. Like, where's your head steering right now on that?
On what? On
what that building, that next thing might be like. What might that next thing be?
Well, I think we might be going back to that. Where does this whole perspective on engagement, productivity, innovation, all that stuff, what's that conversation look like in the corporate world? How does my coming out of closets and realizing there's closets within that, again, that's going to be going and, having to hustle too. But I've gotten a lot of feedback in the last week that a lot of people think that's a much better space for my message, that you can get a lot more business doing that. So I don't know, I still feel like my roots are in this men and masculinity work. And I feel like if I let that cut loose and let it be the extension of the whole guys coming out, because it's all about men. This is where I've always worked, is with men. I think it'll guide me to where I'm supposed to go. And another person I greatly respect said to me last week, he said, I think you're onto something with this men and masculinity, but he goes, not because I think you need to go do it. He goes, it's an extension of where you've been, Rick. And he goes, well, I think where you're at is you're a community builder. And I think you need to start building community around something like this and let the community dictate where you go. And that was something I hadn't thought of either. So. Okay,
man, that makes sense. When it comes to building that sort of thing, that's kind of where I wanted to head today, just on the back of building the new onboarding process last week. There's definitely something to be said for really dialing on some focus and getting something done in such a complete way that it really, you can kind of set it and forget it and not have to revisit it. Like, a lot of people never get out the starting blocks because they're always kind of half doing things, or they're always on 2 or 3 different projects. And I'm pretty bad for this. I'm always exploring things. Like, to get the new product devved, I've had to get the current product devved. I've had to really dial in on podcast websites and what the next 2 years of that looks like, and get that done, get it finished, get it out of the way, get it completed, so that I can step back from that to work on the other stuff, rather than trying to work on 5 things at a time. It's kind of frustrating because you do lose a lot of ground, something that Kieran and I were talking about earlier. You lose a lot of time on the other stuff, but then if you don't do that, you actually never finish anything. You never get anything making money, or you never get the process working as it should do. And it's one of those things where, like, from your side, Rick, if if the community is telling you go in one direction, try this one thing, it's almost like clear your schedule for a week, get this thing done end to end, really just get it finished, bottom done, and then so you never have to forget about it. I think one of the interesting places that maybe everyone, with the exception of Raf, is at, and I'm only saying that from I'm saying you, Raf, there because you're more, at the minute, it's more of an altruistic thing for you. You know, you're connecting people. I think one of the problems is that we're often chasing like the next service that we can provide. You know, so like with Calm, with you, you know, the service that you provide is exposure to your audience, which is an honourable service, and it's the thing that you sell as your business. But you're always like, just as you get out of doing it, so like something else comes up, and you fix that one thing, and then suddenly you're back into having to pitch for this next thing, which is fine. It's great. That's how the business goes. But it's almost like, how can you bolster the bottom line of the business? You know, I'll give you an example of that. Actually, last year, Kieran and I launched the annual plan on podcast websites, knowing full well that for a year we'd sell that, we'd sell it, and we still sell it, we still hammer it. You know, how many signups do we get for that? We had, I don't know, we've had 5 annuals over the last couple of days, couple of weeks, I don't know what that is. So you get, every now and again, an annual plan will drop in. You know, the monthly is what we base our cash flow on, and then annual is like a nice little, it's a bonus. You know, it comes in, it's $1,000 a year. And you get 10, 15, 20 of those a month. It's a win. But we knew when we launched that we just had to nail that. We spent a week just nailing that thing down. And we knew that this August, we would then be able to recruit 5 or 6 different people, or 2 or 3 different people, or create products and services, reinvest some of the money, because suddenly those annuals would start to renew. So the pot, you always build, you're like building the foundation every time, and you're always stepping up and stepping up and stepping up. So it's kind of a bit of a challenge, really. Like probably for you guys, Andrea, Rick, and Calm. Like what could you do to just bolster that bottom line? It's almost like almost like filling a hole in on the beach. You know, you kind of putting the sand underneath your own feet and raising yourself up every time you put another kind of bit of sand in there. You know, you're standing on the next bit. What can you do to kind of fill it so that, like, the peaks and the troughs, they become a lot more.
So in that example, you're saying is that now every August or whatever you spent that time, it's almost like you get a big bonus that just comes in, a surge of money for more advancement or something to that effect, because it's the annual folks are all renewing at about the same time period. Yeah,
and not just at the same time period, but at a recurring rate then. So if someone signs up on the 15th of September, we know on the 15th of September this year it will recur again. So it's more like it's like a layer. It's like you're adding a layer of revenue in. So you know that next August we'll get all the renewals starting again from last year, but then obviously we'd have all this year's that we add throughout the year. So you're always doing that, but you're bolstering it on the recurring revenue stuff. So the pitching, like we don't, at the minute, you know, there's no services that we need to pitch per se. You know, we're going to be bringing some of the design services back over the next few months, but in a different way. And that's
so did that need for the annual feature, or we'll call it a feature as a service, was that because you thought, oh, it'd be really cool because our people need it, the customers, clients want it, or is it you were just building this foundation, or kind of just happened?
We knew that people would buy it, but no one ever asked us for the annual plan. We just knew people would buy it if we could make it better value, you know, because people want to, you know, if someone's throwing $500 at a microphone and God knows what else, you know, a lot of people will be willing to pay $1,000 a year to get it out of the way and have their entire support network for the year, and have that done. And the kind of reason that I'm talking about that today is it's interesting because we've kind of all spoken individually, in particular Calm and Rick last week spoke about like the revenue side of things, you know, the cash flow side of things and stabilizing that. And it's something that when we had the agency, you know, we'd offer things that were typically service oriented. You'd offer them in a productized way, which is effectively what podcast websites is at the minute. It's a lot more. There's a lot more technological stuff that goes alongside it, like some of the plugins that we built. But actually, you know, it delivers the same outcome as an agency, which is a good quality website. So it's kind of thinking, what can you what can you do to stabilize that flow of cash? And take what you might ordinarily sell as a, look, here's a thing, do you want to buy the thing? And then that's it, I'll see you when you might want this thing again. And changing the terms of the game a little bit, turning it into something different. I don't know how that would work, again, for Karma, for Rick, that can take so many guises, but I think if you can stop worrying about money, if you can get the business to a point where you can stop worrying about money, you actually make more money because you can do better work because you're not worried about the next pitch. Not worried about the next client, the next coaching client, the next, the next member. So just something worth thinking about because you're all kind of in product development stage. Like Andrew, we talked earlier, like, okay, what am I going to actually, who to sell to? Business, parents? What am I going to sell? Who knows? That will be dictated to us in the early days, just like it was for Rick. Some people want Rick to speak. Some people want to be on his show. Some people want to consult with him. Raf, you talked about it earlier from a merch perspective, and from like you were on the free coaching Friday where you talked, obviously DM'd Carla, and that's obviously it's a merch thing. But kind of what can you do to stop yourself having to be in that all the time? Like Cam, you said, you're working so much, and it's always, you're kind of always just working on either the production or the bringing in of the cash. There's only really two categories of work. So just food for thought, really. It struck me last week as we were doing the onboarding, is that, all this personal stuff that we would ordinarily do one-to-one, we're now doing in actually a much more personal way, but actually it's 90% automated with only 10% personal in it. But it still feels much more personal because you're getting the right track for you, you're getting the calls at the right times, not just, gratuitous calls whenever. So it might be worth thinking, and in particular, Cam, for you, if you consider, sponsorship's always going to be okay, we'll sell it on this term, but what else is there that you can just use to bolster the bottom line a little bit? It's a curious one. It's an interesting one. Something I've been pondering this weekend.
Frankly, Mark, I've really thought a lot about that recently. And again, I have to visit the deep left or the deep right of my thoughts, but selling an ad on the newsletter, selling an ad on the left sidebar, selling the studio name, which I think is really cool. We're in the, Mark Asquith studio. That could be sold. Amazon affiliate. I got to do this because we talk about so many books all the time, and I'm really looking to create a book page on my site. And people have asked me, how can I buy that book? Can you put a link to a book? Well, why aren't I putting a link to an Amazon page and earning some money from it? And then the other thing was the Remarkable Lab, that whole concept of this coaching that I bring people together, and people pay for that access to these business coaches, and we cough up half the revenues to scholarships in our industry, and Coach and I split the rest. So, the reason that Rick came on is so I could think about some of this stuff, but I don't know if selling ads and newsletters on the left sidebar is just crap and investment of time not well worth it. I don't know.
It's a funny one, that, because it's kind of it's almost, yes, it's a good idea, but it's almost like you've still got to go through that sales pitch every time a renewal comes in. It's almost like what else could you do? Like, could you be a patron of Remarkable Results, and it's a recurring subscription at $10 a month, and it's not anything other than a logo on the patrons page. Something that's just a super simple supporter tool. I'm just trying to think of ways where you wouldn't have to ordinarily convince someone to buy from you. Once you've done that once, if you've got someone there in that level of trust, that's where things become a little bit easier. That's why memberships are always interesting. I
don't know what to put behind the firewall for membership. That's the only problem.
That is it. And I think if you think about, I suppose you've got to think about packaging your knowledge. This is something that all of you could do. Think about packaging your knowledge up in such a way that it's, and this is very obvious membership spiel, but in such a way that it's one-to-many stuff. Like the Podcast Success Academy, all that stuff could be delivered one-to-one by me to you. But it's kind of like, why bother doing that because it means you've got to be there at a certain time, and it means I've got to be there at a certain time, when actually people want different styles of learning, different tracks of learning. So it's kind of, I think it's packaging that knowledge up, you know, and it's like, if you think about for you, Rick, you know, you'd sort of be picking a niche where you could help people with that life uncloseted, that boldness. You know, actually, what does boldness mean to them? You know, can you help everyone with a bold move? It's not just, you know, the coming out coach. It's not just corporate. It's not just university. It's just, actually, is there a framework that you can put in place and then monetize on a one-to-many basis that will help anyone looking to make a life change that requires that background of getting to the point of being bold? And it doesn't have to be crazy expensive. You know, it can be $19 a month. It doesn't have to be $50 a month. You know, it can be $19, $20 a month. And just like doing something that you do for one person and just making it available. Just letting it go out.
I could see the potential. I mean, this is a huge workload. If I can't justify the money, is to put special interviews, special discussions, special roundtables, special topics behind a firewall. So
the way that you can do that one, and I think Rick and Andrea, I think Andrea, it's a little bit further down the line for you, but I certainly see it as being something you could do. And even Raf, you as well. You know, it's a funny one with you because you've got to really toe the line between being seen to sell to vets and exploiting the vets. It's similar to being a teacher or providing stuff to teachers. You know, you can't be seen to exploit the kids and the parents, but at the same time, you know, they want what they want. But certainly for you and Rick, Calm, I think there's like maybe a pre-launch in there, similar to what we do with podcast websites, where you'll just throw out for 6 months or 3 months. You say, look, on this day, I'm going to launch this thing. If I raise X amount, it's almost like your own little mini Kickstarter. You know, it's going to be $40 a month. The first 20 people get it at $10 a month. The next people get it at 15. Everyone else gets it at 20. You know, whatever that might. You can build something without building it. And if you can get it into revenue early, that kind of works and validates the idea, because you can use that money to reinvest back in the infrastructure and the people.
And Carm, for you, you know, you got the validation from Australia to Zimbabwe, right? As you were saying earlier, you have fans that trust you, right? You've achieved that. So if you throw it out there and you said, hey, listen, I'm going to do behind the scenes exclusive only XYZ of what you all have thought about and talked about or whatever, those individuals say, oh, that's cool because I know this guy and that's going to be well worth the 10 extra bucks or the 15 extra bucks a month, something like that.
There's definitely a play in there, Calm, somewhere. It's just how you bring it together, you know?
Yeah, I love your idea of setting up something that sells it. Like you say, bring on some founders and, you know, and every month it increases to see what the exposure is. Okay, so the monthly income is going to be X. Now you realize what you could really literally put out.
Well, it does make it easier for budgeting as well. And this is something that Rick, it was kind of our chat, Rick, that catalyzed this, was that, you know, I was thinking about where we talked about you making that big move and that big splash with the next big content piece that you develop. You know, we've got to have a back end for that kind of thing. We've got to have a back end for it. We've got to know where to send people. If you listen to like Ask by Ryan Levesque, he's sending you to askbook.com/resources. If you listen to The Miracle Morning, which I was wildly underwhelmed with, you know, that's like basically a book full of an advert of his life. But it was, you know, the two chapters that actually tell you something were all pointing you to the Miracle Morning community. You know, there's got to be a back end somewhere.
So Mark, so kind of as what I'm distilling in all this, it's almost going back to creating a different revenue source, a different steady revenue source within the business is kind of what you're saying. So it's like a different stream of income that is just, doesn't have to be huge. It could just be a small trickle, but it's a constant trickle so they can give you the sort of that space to go do these other things, or you're not worried about chasing that next thing. It's kind of giving you that breathing room. Is that kind of what we're saying?
Yeah, it gives you that predictability. You know, it gives you that predictability to be able to say, okay, I can reinvest here, or this time, you know, you can plan for the next year because you can reinvest this at this point because you know that the recurring revenue will then step up a gear. you know, if you sell it, like I said earlier, if you sell an annual plan, and then you know when the annual plans restart, you know you're going to another layer of income. So there's a few ways of doing that.
Mark, a question, knowing that we put that type of content behind a firewall, it's only available desktop or on smartphone if you've got your password. It's like no one has an easy way to listen. You got to be on the site to consume it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Which is fine, you know, whether it's video content or audio content, workshops, resources, whatever. I think you got to think about what content you want to put on there. Like, what can you do to enhance the community rather than do what you're already doing? Like, what does the community want versus what you're already comfortable producing? You know,
so Carm, instead of thinking of it as a negative, the immediate thought that came to mind as you were saying that was, you can go to Apple Music and listen to an artist's song. I can go and buy the CD and consume it in my car. But when the artist comes to town, I make the 50-minute drive to the venue to go watch them. So that's kind of what I would imagine is that for them to get this exclusive content is the equivalent of a fan jumping in a car, getting out of work early, buying tickets, paying $20 for parking, and going to a venue.
Yeah,
you know,
I got it.
Yeah.
Kieran's gone. I just nearly broke my hand. Look, I've hurt myself. And he gave me a nice little squeeze. And I hurt myself there as well. And my ribs, internal bruising. No bleeding. We're good.
Listen, are you fishing for sympathy? Because you started fishing for it on Friday.
Oh, no. I'm always fishing for sympathy. I don't get any, that's why. No, take me for granted.
That's why you only have that one friend that happens to be in Rick's neighborhood.
Exactly. That's why I thought I'd mention it, just to, prove it. But no, you're right with the sentiment on that, Raf, which is, people will make the extra effort if it's worth it. But also that kind of, another thing that's kind of quite interesting is you've got to kind of put a premium on you as well. Like Rick, you're very accessible to people. People should really be paying to get to you if they want your advice. You're very accessible, and rightly so. But if people want, there's a distinction between like just talking to you and getting you as a friend and getting you in a business perspective. There's got to be like a paid line there, where you just add things that they would want that you normally take for granted, like that for the free coaching that I do on a Friday. We're looking at rolling something similar out for the Academy members, but you would have to be on the paid tier, where once a week you'll get probably James going online for 45 minutes and doing some free coaching about the industry, about podcasting overall, and about anything else that's cropped up. But those things you take for granted, like you just do them. So it's deciding where to put that paywall. Where would you, Rick, if it was you? And you were talking to guys that want to make a bold move. You're talking to women that want to make a bold move. You're talking to corporates want to make a bold move. You're talking to university students that want to make it. Whatever it is, people that are bored in their business, people that are bored in their life, just any kind of bold move. It doesn't have to be one that you're already familiar with. Like all the stuff that you take for granted, you can create a paid for piece out of the tiniest little bit of knowledge, and that becomes something so valuable because you'll just. You only need to add that one quick win to someone, and they'll see the value in that quick win for the next year. You know what I mean? If you just sort of like you can, and I normally say this, like we'll have a coaching call and they'll be, we'll just be chatting and solving problems, doing what we do, but then there'll be one tiny thing that just crops up and you'll be like, that was worth the entire call, just that one thing. Like if you can package that and get that behind the paywall, that's where you can really win with that sort of stuff. And it's just trying to get out of the chase a little bit. Well,
I got a million ideas on how I could pull that off.
There'll be tons that you could do, so much stuff that you could do, and a lot of it really, I think, as well, like could be set up on infrastructure that you've already got, like an extra 15 minutes on the end of a town hall, or an extra 30 minutes somewhere else during the week. Suddenly that becomes value. It's behind the paywall. It becomes a remarkable results exclusive or whatever. There's plenty in there that you could do. And Rick, the same for you. rather than pitching out to all these, if it's the students that are making the decisions, let the students have the access. Do 10 talks, and then all your content on the front end is just funneling into this thing. All your calls to action, go to do this thing. There's plenty you could do with that. And then RAF, again, and in the back end, you could do it. It could be a very low level. You could even do something where you get funding for it. Look, this costs $30 a month, and we're all government funded. The government buys 50 seats a month, and we give these 50 seats to vets. We roll it like that, and it's all about that transition from leaving to living. What to do if you're having a bad day? Oh, boom, you log in here and you make sure that someone's there for you. It's a very interesting concept. I can see Rick thinking. What are you thinking about, dude?
I guess for me, I'm trying to wrap my head around what this would look like, and if the effort to go build something like that, not knowing if there's any return, it's always that inevitable. If you build this, will they actually come? That's the thing.
Well, what you could do with that one, that's a really great point. Now, what the academy, our academy, we've always had the idea of that being a separate thing, but we didn't implement it for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And there was a reason for that. Actually, there was a couple of reasons for that. One, the build time. We didn't know if anyone, like you said, would pay for it.
Right.
Two, we didn't quite know where to structure that in the ecosystem. Like, was it going to be a free tier and then a paid tier? Was it always going to be a paid tier and no free tier? How was that going to sit? But also the library of content. We had to build the library of content. So we almost did like an MVP version of that by just having the video workshops in the academy within your dashboard for 2-3 years. And then we took that out. We chose 4 to upgrade to like more fully featured pieces of content. And we launched the Success Academy on its own with those pieces. So it was kind of like MVP, a little bit stealth, a little bit, okay, what am I doing with this content, ready for the bigger launch later. So to kind of put that into context for you, what you could start to do there is that you may do something like where you record, as you're recording your podcast, you are just videoing yourself. So you're taking something you're already doing and creating some extra value off the back of it. And so you're not really adding any more work. What you're doing is you're just creating a variant of that. Or you might stay online for 5 minutes afterwards and do another 5-minute chat, which is video, where you can then start to build the content out later. So you can say, look, now I've got these 50 videos. That's it. I'm good. I'm good with this. I can just put the technology around. And then the easiest way to do it then is just kind of make it free. Just put it behind an email sign up versus a big membership, and then expand it from there. So you kind of don't have to start with the tech. You could start with what you're already doing and just think about how you could get more out of what you're doing.
Hey guys, there's some pretty big personalities inside of our industry that are experts, some of them in technology, some of them in marketing. And Mark, let's go back to some of the discussion we had on the Gonzo podcast. I'm wondering if we're approaching these guys and says, hey, I'd love to do a show twice a month with you. Here's the fee to come on board and put this behind my firewall. Put these well-known, talented people that have something to share and give them their own show behind the firewall.
Yeah. So many different things like that you can do. And then you bring them all together for an omnibus and for a crossover. Like, there's so much of that stuff you could do. And even do like, you bring your calm show, which is like this magazine show, if you like, you bring that into the mix.
Maybe I bring that's where I start my Carm show, behind the firewall.
Yeah, could do. And that might be
That's exactly it. Carm, you have enough of an influence. That's what I was talking about earlier, about that idea of being that audio influencer. You do the Carm show, I bet you the guy in Australia is going to sign up. Right? I mean, he's a fan. That's that super fan status we were talking about earlier, Mark, right? Remember, you build a fan plus, super fan.
And then you'd migrate them through, you'd do a big pre-launch on that and say, look, there's just a landing page on my website, which is nice and straightforward. Just go and register. I go onto a separate list on Aweber, and they are pre-launch people. Off you go, nice and easy. They're all in. and then you just launch it to them.
Because Carm, it's going to be your super fans, and that's why I was talking with Mark earlier in that what you guys helped me achieve last week. All week, I came up with this concept for the stickers where I'm going to have a fan. If you're a fan of Served and you want more than just the 2 get 1 give 1, you'll get 20 stickers a month, and that 20 translates to 10 stickers getting passed out. So now I got these people sort of working for me. But then if you want to raise up, then you go Fan Plus, right? And that one you can buy the puck at a discounted price. And then the super fan was you put them behind this community firewall thing where now you're your super fan that you're paying for stuff.
Yeah, chicken or egg. 10 people come on and I have to go to all these guys and say, I'm sorry, I can't afford you now. Without sponsors. Because there's just not enough signups. There's just not enough signups to be able to afford the deal. Unless I have an agreement that there's a revenue share up to a certain number.
There's definitely something in that, I think, for everyone. It's just to look at what else you can start doing with what you've already got.
Again, I always visit the worst left and the worst right of an idea, but frankly, I think this is a great thing to be putting in the meat grinder and see what kind of sausage I get at the other end.
And remember, Carm, it's not money. People sometimes don't need the money. Maybe it's just they always wanted to do a podcast and they think it'd be really fun.
How about this? Yeah, how about at least the one guy that has this big company? He sells memberships in this. It's called Diag Network. He may just want to come on for free to help promote his own thing. He may be, I'm in. Yeah, you can include me in your member thing because guess what's going to happen when I'm on? They're going to sign up for my thing. There's another thought. How many guys have their own membership programs that are so well respected in the industry? This guy that I'm thinking of is a bigger influencer than even me. And he may be just ripe for something like this.
Partnerships, and there's never any contest with that. Partnerships are always the way forward. You know, it's got to be. Right, I'll stick a pin in that in a second, guys. But just start thinking about it. And one of the takeaways is just take what you're already doing and look at how you can use that time like multiple ways without any extra work. You know, a key one is like if you're recording a podcast, go and do a Facebook Live and then immediately take it down and use the video for later and said, this will be available in my membership later. You know, that's a real simple one that everyone can do that's recording the show. Andrew, from your side, every time you write something, just record a video of you reading it and talking about it. That's it. It's an extra 3-4 minutes. Same with you, Raf. You know, but just start thinking about that. Just trying to, again, it's not a today fix, but it's like the hamster wheel. Just slowly starting to get off that 1 foot at a time. Cool. Right, guys.
And Mark, before you go, so this paid firewall, is this exist in PW, or is this something that we have to build completely separate? Another platform?
It can go inside podcast websites. Yeah, it can go inside there. It can integrate with that. There's like the physical tech of it. There's like 10 ways to do that, and they're all.
I thought you created one.
They're all compatible. No, we were going to do the membership one, but there was no demand for it. There's already ones out there that we can integrate with. So like members.
Oh, so it's another service platform that integrates into our website.
Well, again, there's like 10 ways you can do it. You could just use a plugin. You could just use PayPal. You could just add a role management plugin to your website, which is easy enough, you know, to say like if this person's in this role, then let them see this. If not, then don't let them see this. There's a few ways that you can work that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a few ways to do that, but it's easy enough. It's easy enough once you get to that point.
Okay.
Cool, guys. Right, remember, no Mastermind next week, and the week after, we are on Thursday, not Monday, because it's Labor Day. I've got like our version of Labor Day next week. So, cool, guys. Hit me up.
That's right. You're going on vacation, right?
I'm on vacation from tomorrow, but I'll be in Slack. I'll still be checking in. So just hit
That's not true vacation.
Well, you know, what can I say? You got to do it.
It's like a Sunday. It's like a Sunday text.
Oh, they're the worst. I'll be checking those out, but I'll probably do like once, probably on Friday for the office hours. I'll check in then. So if there's anything, give me a shout.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let me know you got one with Pail. Good luck, dude.
Thanks, man.
Bye.